and you haven't had many amateur fights or none.
What do you do? How does that shape out?
That's exactly what we're about to jump into, because I know it's a lot of people that want to really understand what's important about getting into the fight game. But you see all of these guys who stars and they're just flossing, and you want a piece of the pie and you think you can fight. But we're going to show you and talk about the pros and cons. Why is it important to have some fights and what you actually learn in the amateur ranks? And then from there, we're going to make it very clear the tools that you will need. All right. So,
All right, so let's dive into it. So we get a lot of DMs and messages from people that they are ready to go pro, but they have no amateur career.
yeah.
So let's start out by talking a little bit about, what are the hurdles that they can expect by not having an amateur career that's gonna,
Yeah. If you don't have an amateur career and you don't have people that actually know you or follow you, like some of these guys in the world of YouTube, then you can expect nothing. Minimal money, and you will get moved in the sport like you don't matter, because you really won't matter.
Yeah.
And no one who has not had an amateur career without and don't have a big giant following of people that can fill arenas like Jake Paul, no one has a successful career. But if you just want to do it as a hobby and you just like boxing that much and you don't want money, then do it. But if you do want money, here's what you can expect in the amateur careers. The first couple of years is
let's pull the curtain back a little bit. Let's say if what does the amateur career, what does it actually teach you? What do you get from it?
Well, I was going to say, in the amateur careers you learn process, because fighting in the amateurs is not like fighting a street fight. Like, you don't need footwork in a street fight. The only thing you need is that overhand right that you throw every time you get pissed. And number one, when you fight in a street fight, it's all anger and emotion. Or if somebody's coming at you, you're just trying to protect yourself.
True.
But in the pros or in amateur boxing, it's all about controlling your emotions. It's all about knowing how to be patient, setting traps, not getting caught up in your emotions. You have to have a high EQ when you are professional, or if you are fighting in high level tournaments in the amateur ranks. So that's what you're going to learn there. You got to learn process, how to go about doing an actual physical, how to make weight, what can you eat and not eat during, what are the 1,000 rules that you have to learn that are not in street fighting. Because if you think that you can transfer street fighting into boxing, let's see what happens when you find the story of a guy that said, all I've done is knock people out in the streets and I'm world champion now. It's never happened, and it never will. So there's a reason, because boxing is a sport. And if you don't understand the sport, then what's going to happen is you're going to be a victim of the sport, like most fighters do. So with that being said, you want to have an amateur career, or you got to have the understanding of process. And how can you learn process?
Well, that's the thing. It's all about having a system and a process that will take you from day one to the pros. So let's talk about what that amateur career does for you to be able to give you that process, so you are prepared to go pro.
Yeah, because once you learn how to navigate and understanding the vocabulary in boxing, you have to realize that there are things that we know that you don't. And there's a reason why you get guys in there who don't have experience, and they get caught out on Quest Street and get clipped, bam, bam, they become a highlight reel. That's not how you want to be known in boxing. You don't want to be that guy. But when you learn the process, you learn how to use the ring and become a general by learning lateral movement. These are drills that you have to learn over and over and over again, not the way you do it on YouTube, because YouTube does not show you process and does not give you an application. It just throws a bunch of stuff at you, right? So tell me, have you ever learned something on YouTube and then it worked, and then you thought you were onto something, but you didn't actually have the next thing? How many people who are watching have learned something on YouTube and actually fight in competition? It worked because it will. The thing about it is you never bargain for what happens when the guy makes that adjustment to that thing and you don't know or have the process to do the other thing that you need to do to turn that thing around and get the conversation and the confidence back, because the tide turns in boxing, even
Every
in the
time.
amateurs.
Yeah.
So this is where you learn lateral movement, angles, knowing how to create circular motions in the ring without clipping your own feet and getting caught out on Quiz Street.
Yeah.
This is understanding backpedaling and knowing how to fight off of your back foot. You learn a vocabulary that you've actually fought.
And I would also say that the sequence matters. You know, there's a process to follow. I know recently we had someone hit us up and on our site and in our DMs, and they just wanted to get your amazing video library that goes with another product. And I said, well, how are you going to put it together? You know, otherwise they didn't know that sequence mattered. They didn't know how to put it together. And it's everything that you just said.
Yeah.
Application is the discerning factor.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Grab those books and let me show you guys something, because I don't like to just talk. I like to show you receipts. So when we talk about application, it's just like when you go to kindergarten, first grade through the 12th, right? They know what they're going to teach you. Every year they teach the same stuff because you have to learn process. So this, my friend, is what you call application.
Yeah.
Application. This is a skills training guide. The only way to get it in you is to do this and follow these days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Each one of these skills and tactics every day, because there are guys out there not having this and they just train whatever they feel like, and that don't work in boxing because you need muscle memory. And so now they're learning the ring while you're not. You're just stealing ideas. They're learning the ring, and you're much more likely to be accomplished when you actually have something repeated to you in your brain, like the ABCs, over and over and over again. The Pledge of Allegiance, they said it over and over and over again. You know all of those song worms because you got to say them every A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right?
Yep.
That's a song worm. That's this. That's how you take boxing and learn it in a manner that actually transitions into your fighting. Once you have this, you're going into these trainings. Then you go into your practical stuff. So you go to our video library, right? When you go to the video library, it's a guy that looks just like me, not quite as handsome, but at the same time, he walks you through exactly what to do, all 4 levels.
Yep.
Basic, advanced level, and then it's just the tiers. Hot sauce is 3, where you getting in there and you starting to look like you really do it for real, but you have to ingrain your natural street fighting ability into skills and process.
Yeah.
Because when you see a guy who don't have process, then you find a guy who gets his cap peeled back on a regular basis. It never fails, because that's the sport of boxing. So this is what it looks like when you've gone through the amateurs. And if you don't have a deep amateur career, then you have process and application. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's why we have so many level 1 and level 2 coaches in our school, because that school and the curriculum is their guide every single day, without fail.
Yeah. And a guy, in a quick story, as a kid, he came up with me and he was an amateur and he was just losing his fights because he had a lot of ability, but he thought because he could fight in the street and he looked really good doing what he could do, he thought that transferred into boxing as a professional. So he got his girlfriend knocked up, so he wanted to go pro and make some money. But I said, you know, you only make $400 in the amateur ranks of fight when you fight. I mean, in the pros, when you only doing 4-round fights at the most. In New York, they'll pay you like $2,000 sometimes. It depends on who's the promoter. I'm gonna tell you, that's not money.
Yeah.
Like it takes you 6 weeks to train for a fight, right? Is
Minimum,
$400 worth 6 weeks? No. So you have to learn how to subsidize and be patient so you can learn everything you need to know. But long story short, he went pro, and I told him I can't train you because you're not ready for pros. You're losing in the amateurs.
Yeah.
What makes you think but things will make you do things that don't make sense, because all he had to do is do the math. In a year, he can only make $1,000 if he fights 3 times. Only. You can go to a 7-Eleven and make $1,000. You can go outside and wash 3 cars and make $1,000. Why would you go into 3 training camps to make $1,000? Doesn't make sense. So I want you guys to really think about the pros. Now, if you got a big following like Jake Paul and these guys like Aiden, KSI, guys who understood how important that was, then yeah, go do it and pick your opponents. Guys who are lesser than you. But when you're in the amateurs and you're going pro, or if you haven't, you want to make sure you got process. But this kid, he went into the pros and lost his first 4 fights, ended up having to retire, orbital bone smash. Like I said, that's better than dying with 13 people dying. But he didn't want to. He thought what he was learning was enough, but you got to learn the process. And there's 4 layers to boxing that you have to learn. It's fun because you're getting better every time you lace them up. You can feel the difference because first you're getting it in your hippocampus, right? And you're getting it in there first, and then because you can't learn while you're getting hit. So you learn when you're operating at the highest level by following this. Then your practical teachings that simulate what you do, and then you get in there and you get into some sparring, that's even in levels. And then you do the smoker to hardwire yourself. Does that make sense? Because if that makes sense, then you're following me, and I'm glad that you're here on the live stream. If you got questions, make sure you drop them in the comments.
Yeah. So your advice to someone who hasn't had an amateur career and wants to grow pro?
Yeah, get into the school, fight school. Because you don't know how much is coming, but it's not your fault. You don't know because you didn't do an amateur career. But you got to know you stand no chance. There's millions of kids out there who are registered as pros and didn't have amateur careers, and they will never land on your radar screen. And so, but now what I didn't have growing up, we have that. We have a place that pushes you through and gets you into that upper echelon. Introduces you right into the big fights in the fight game, because I'm at the top of the fight game. You be checking us out on the Netflix MVP Tank Davis fight card. We'll be in the building once again. And like I said, we're in the minutia of boxing. So you might as well jump directly into a place that could put you, just like Floyd did with Tank, put him right where the smoke is, so he can highlight and showcase your skill set. So that's the big takeaway.
So it is possible.
Yeah.
You're saying it is possible, but you want to have a process to follow.
Yeah.
And be sure you are prepared.
You're prepared. You got to make sure that you're listening to people like myself who teach you how to really market your own name. You get it? So people actually want to see you. And so when you fight, people will show up to your fight, at least online. They'll tune in. And numbers matter. Boxing is just a business. That's just awesome. That's the difference. So hopefully this landed in anybody who's training in boxing, anybody who's working with fighters, or if you fight, just remember it's important that you have a process. The School of Boxing was designed because there was no process. So you had to fight 100 amateur fights. And if you're not taking that route, you understand, you can do this, then that's the fastest way to knowing how to fight, understanding process, and just being badass because you are subscribed to this page.
That's right.
All right.
This guy's giving you his 10,000 hours.
I'm giving you
what he didn't have.
Boom. Let's get it. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well as subscribe. If you want to continue to learn more, go down in our description and you can take a little journey and see what we have laid out for you guys to learn about us. And if you are trying to inquire about the school, holler at your man. Coach Bradley signing out. Be blessed at God's speed, and I'll see you soon in the winner's circle.
See you next time.